everybody, welcome back to another video. It's been kind of a crazy couple weeks being gone with camp and now on vacation, but I'm hoping to be back more regularly. I hope this video encourages you and blesses you a little bit today. Okay, so today I'm going to start off by reading from 1 Samuel chapter 17 from verse 2 to 11, and so it says, And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span, and had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. And he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders, and else of iron, and one bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are you come out to set your battle in array? Am I not a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me and to kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants and serve us. And the Philistines said, I defy the armies of Israel this day, and give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all of Israel heard these words of the Philistines, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Okay, so I'm sure most of you have heard that story before of David and Goliath, but God just really laid it on my heart this week to talk about it. And so that passage was right before the battle was even taken. Nobody had came forward and said they wanted to fight the Philistines, but can you imagine the Israelites just looking down into the battlefield and only imagining that they're going to lose to these people, to the Philistines that are so much bigger. And it kind of reminds me of like us in our own lives. Like we all have our own Goliaths or our own giants that we face, and we all get really scared, and we all look down in this battlefield, and we're like, we're all like, what? We can't do this by ourselves, or we can't do this. This is too crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna pick back up in the story, and I'm gonna start reading from 1 Samuel chapter 17. Verse 34, and it says, And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them. Seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God, David said, Moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion, and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with thee. And Saul armed David with his armor, and put on a helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with the coat of mail, and David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off of him. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and a ruddy and a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog that thou comest to me with stabs? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said unto David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistine this day unto the fowls of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with a sword and a spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hastened and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead. And the stones sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. That is one of my favorite stories in the Bible, and so I think it's really cool that David, he was a servant and he was the least expected to even step out. He was the one that stepped out, and that was the one that was willing to even fight Goliath. And so he didn't win that battle by himself. He won it because he had faith in God, and that God was with him and was going to deliver him in that battle. So something that was really cool that God brought to my attention was, if you look at David and Goliath, they might be different, but when you strip away everything, they're both humans. And so I think it's really interesting that a lot of times we have our Goliaths in our own life, but it might be a problem, it might be a person. But when you strip that away and you look at it solely, they aren't bigger, better than us. We're all on an equal playing field. David didn't see Goliath as someone who had much better skills, who was so much taller, who had the better armor. He didn't think that at all. He knew that he had God on his side and he could defeat anyone. It didn't matter if they had it all or if they had little. He knew he was going to win because he had God on his side. Something that I found that was really interesting to me was when Saul tried to put his armor on David, and David said he couldn't wear it because he hadn't proved it. And so this really hit home for me, because how often do I try to take what like my mentors, what I look up to, and try to solve the problems the way they've solved it, or try to go to my friends, or try to go to other places to get advice, when really I should be taking it to Jesus and letting him have it and let him fight it with me. And so I think it's really encouraging that David said, no, I can't wear this. I can't wear all this armor that looks super probably scary and looked like he had it all together. Instead, he just used his abilities and what he knew and what he had and what he knew worked, and had God on his side. And so I think that's really cool that we can use our abilities and our strengths, and if we have God on our side, that we can win and fight, and as we fight that battle, we can win the victory with that. Something that kind of goes along with that too is when David took that one stone and sling it, and it hit Goliath's forehead, he didn't take 2 or 3, he took 1. And so I think that was really amazing too. Like I said, how many times do we try to go to other people to fix our problems, or we try to go maybe to the internet and look up how to do this or how to do that, when we could take it to God and I'm sure get a much, much better answer than what the internet or what people tell us. And so I found that really encouraging as well. I hope this story encourages you today, and that we all have our own Goliaths or giants, but what are we going to do about them? So I just want to remind you that when you feel least likely or unqualified, that David was too, and that God used him in a mighty way. Second, that your Goliath may seem impossible to face, or that it's got so much power or it's so much better than you, but take a step back and look at it and just strip it down. In reality, it has no power, and actually we're the ones that have the power if we have God on our side. Third, that when we may seem different or have a unique approach, that's okay, and that we are all unique and different, but if we use our differences for him, he will get the glory out of them. Just like David, he wasn't going to use the armor that Saul tried to give him, but he was going to use a sling and the stones, and how God was on his side, and how that was used for a victory, and how they glorified God afterwards. Lastly, you can win any battle. It might not be how you thought it would be won, and it might not be on your timing or what you thought it would look like, but if you have God on your side and you run into that battlefield, you are going to win it with him on your side. Just like example, so the past like 4 months during quarantine, it's been kind of crazy. A lot of like decisions I've had to make with being home from college, a lot of just mini Goliaths I've had to face. But I look back now over these past 4 months, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want to defeated them in any other way. And so I have to make a lot of decisions about upcoming things for college in the future. And I look down at this battlefield and I get a little bit nervous about it. But if I honestly step back, not focus on me and look at God, and pray about it on my way through it, in a couple months when I look back, I'll look back and those Goliaths that I had at that time will be defeated, not because of me and not because of my own strength, but because of God, and that God is on my side, and that I can get through any problem or any issue I'm having. And so I hope this kind of encourages you, especially because right now there's a lot of uncertainties and a lot of negatives in the world, but just keep your head up and know that it may not seem like your season is at its highest, or that God maybe is always right there next to you, but if you put your trust in Him and He is on your side, He will get you through each and every battle, and it will only make you stronger. I hope this video encourages you. Happy Friday. I'm going to go ahead and pray us out. And so, dear Jesus, thank you so much for just allowing me to just speak these truths to everyone watching this video. Just please help me to remember this in my own life and apply it. When you seem so far, you are so close, and that if we have you on our side and put our trust in you, that we will win any battle. It may not be how we want it to, it may not be on our timing, and it may seem impossible, but with you, all things are possible, and you will get all the joy and the glory for it, God. We love you, and just thanks for allowing me to have a great week on vacation and a great week at camp. I love you, and in Jesus' name I pray, amen. Again, I hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time.